trouble, but because of the three-point shooting around her, you got to play her single coverage, and she can make a post move on everyone in this league.
Oh, and Howard is cooking here in the first half.
Entered the 2025 WNBA season with soaring hopes and sharp expectations. With Caitlin Clark, arguably the most electrifying rookie the league has seen in years, leading the charge. The team looked poised to rise out of its rebuilding phase and finally contend for a consistent playoff berth. Clark, fresh off a historic collegiate career at Iowa and one of the most hyped No. 1 picks in league history, brought a massive wave of attention, energy, and, of course, pressure with her. The Fever saw in her not just a guard with deep range and creative vision, but a cultural phenomenon capable of reshaping their identity both on and off the court. But as is often the case in sports, the reality proved more complicated than the fantasy. Clark, despite her undeniable talent and jaw-dropping highlights, has also battled growing pains typical of many rookies adjusting to the speed and physicality of the WNBA. Her first season ended with a glaring statistic: 223 turnovers, the most ever recorded by a rookie in league history. It was a stat that loomed large over the offseason, especially for a Fever team that had invested not just in Clark's ability, but in her evolution into a leader and stabilizing presence on the floor. Coming into her sophomore season, Indiana had every reason to believe that the turnover problem would improve with time, maturity, and coaching. Yet, instead of ironing out those wrinkles, the team saw an increase in mistakes at key moments. Through the early stages of the 2025 season, Clark was responsible for nearly 40% of Indiana's 12.9 turnovers per game, a rate that proved especially costly in close matchups. The turning point in the narrative came during a tightly contested game against the Las Vegas Aces. The Fever were deadlocked at 69 apiece midway through the fourth quarter when a pair of sloppy plays from Clark opened the door for the Aces to surge ahead. Those missteps became the spark for not one but two straight losses, triggering questions about whether Indiana was overly reliant on their young star. But then, in a twist no one quite expected, a forced change in the Fever's dynamic reshaped the season entirely. Clark went down with a right groin injury, sidelining her for what would be several games. For Indiana, it could have spelled doom, losing not only their leading scorer and playmaker but also the face of their franchise. Yet something remarkable happened in her absence. The rest of the Fever roster, long considered underdeveloped or inconsistent, found a rhythm. They discovered confidence. They stepped up. That emergence was encapsulated perfectly in Indiana's recent 78-74 victory over the Seattle Storm, their fifth straight win, marking the team's longest winning streak of the 2025 season and their longest since the Tamika Catchings era, with the exception of one short stretch from late August to early September 2024. What made this streak even more noteworthy? The Fever did it all without Caitlin Clark, without their floor general, without their deep-range shooter, without their media magnet and jersey-selling phenom. Indiana didn't crumble. They didn't just survive, they thrived. The ball movement across the hardwood became cleaner, crisper. Offensive sets became more egalitarian. The scoring load was shared. The players who had been somewhat eclipsed by the Clark spotlight began to shine on their own terms. Indiana head coach Stephanie White addressed this phenomenon with a candid, powerful statement. While we don't like it, sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise because everybody else finds themselves right, she said. And she's not wrong. The absence of Clark has, in many ways, forced the Fever to play differently, to lean into team basketball rather than star-driven isolation. And it's working. The transformation from a one-dimensional offensive scheme to a collective, multi-pronged attack has turned Indiana into a resilient and dangerous opponent. One can look at nearly every rotation player and see the growth. Kelsey Mitchell, a seasoned scorer, has regained her rhythm and assertiveness. She's no longer waiting for Clark to initiate the offense or draw defensive attention. She's creating her own shots and clutch moments, like the mid-range dagger she sank in the final minute against Seattle. Ari McDonald has added speed and energy off the bench, providing a two-way presence that's hard to ignore. Aaliyah Boston has flourished as both a scorer and a rebounder in Clark's absence, stepping up as the emotional and strategic anchor in the paint. Natasha Howard, with her veteran leadership and gritty defense, has quietly become the heartbeat of the team. And then there's Sophie Cunningham, who's playing with an edge and intensity that's earned praise across the league. The game against Seattle wasn't just a win, it was a test of Indiana's mental toughness. They led by 12 points with less than 5 minutes to go. In previous months, that would have almost certainly spelled trouble. The Fever had developed a reputation for coughing up leads late, especially during the painful stretch of June and July. In those weeks, they dropped several winnable games, collapsing in the second half or allowing teams to stage fourth-quarter comebacks. Fans still remember the 13-point cushion against Golden State that turned into an 11-point loss, the blown lead against Las Vegas, the meltdown against Los Angeles on June 26, where a 10-point fourth-quarter lead became a 10-point defeat. Indiana just couldn't close until now. In the game against Seattle, they faced a similar scenario. The Storm stormed back, trimming the lead to a single point in the final minute. But instead of panicking or losing cohesion, Indiana made plays. Mitchell hit a big shot. Boston sank 2 free throws with 2 seconds left. Seattle missed 6 of their last 7 field goal attempts. This wasn't luck, it was the result of disciplined team basketball, solid rotations, and rising self-belief. Sophie Cunningham made her thoughts clear after the game, voicing what many in the locker room likely feel. "I don't think Caitlin's absence affects us anymore," she said. "We know how to play with her. If we don't have Caitlin, great. We know how to play without her." That level of confidence, not arrogance, speaks volumes. It suggests that Indiana is no longer just Caitlin Clark's team. It's a team, period. One with depth, resilience, and multiple weapons. It also raises a fascinating question. Has Caitlin Clark's absence actually made the Fever better? Of course, that doesn't mean the Fever are better off without her permanently. Clark remains a generational talent. Her scoring gravity, court vision, and range are assets that few teams can match. And when she's playing well, she elevates Indiana to heights few other players could. But her injury may have forced a strategic reset that was sorely needed. A reset that allowed others to assert themselves, to learn how to carry the load, to discover how to finish games. That kind of collective development is invaluable. Looking ahead, the Fever will have to figure out how to reintegrate Clark without reverting to the turnover-prone, one-dimensional team they were earlier in the season. The coaching staff now has evidence that a more balanced, distributed offense works, and they'll need to help Clark evolve her role accordingly. That might mean fewer risky skip passes, fewer isolation sets, more off-ball movement, more trust in her teammates. Fans, too, are weighing in with strong opinions. Online forums and social media are buzzing with debates about Clark's impact and whether Indiana should consider resting her even longer to ensure she's fully healthy. Some argue that the team's current momentum proves they can contend without rushing her back. Others suggest that blending this new team chemistry with Clark's talents could make Indiana a title contender sooner than anyone expected. Ultimately, what we're witnessing is a franchise growing up in real time. The Caitlin Clark era isn't on pause, it's maturing. Her teammates are no longer spectators in her journey, they're partners. And when Clark does return, she may find herself part of a stronger, more balanced, and more determined team than the one she left. For now, the Fever continue to roll. They've won 5 straight. They've beaten playoff-caliber teams. They've closed out games under pressure. And they've sent a message to the rest of the league. Don't sleep on Indiana. With or without Caitlin Clark, they're here to compete. As for head coach Stephanie White's 3-word reaction that captured the current moment, blessing in disguise. And she just might be right, just might be right.
Satu Sabali's third. Maybe had her hand there on Howard, but
After the play,
After Indiana's hard-fought victory over the Dallas Wings last Friday, a win that marked their 4th consecutive triumph, the Fever locker room should have been brimming with celebration. On paper, a 4-game winning streak during a turbulent season is something any team would proudly embrace. But for Kelsey Mitchell, one of Indiana's longest-tenured players and vocal leaders, the mood wasn't exactly one of unbridled joy. While the scoreboard read in Indiana's favor, Mitchell's post-game comments reflected something deeper: frustration, reflection, and an unshakable standard of excellence. Hats off to Dallas, she acknowledged respectfully, but I think we took some time off. Her words weren't mere criticism, they were a pulse check. Mitchell had seen what many others may have missed, a winnable game merely slipping through their fingers due to lapses in focus, energy, and execution. It was a warning that despite the victories, the Fever couldn't afford to get complacent. Yet, beneath her frustration, even Mitchell couldn't deny a powerful, undeniable truth. Something had changed. Something real, intangible, and transformative had taken root in Indiana's identity. And maybe, just maybe, it was the kind of shift that only happens when a star player, a cultural beacon like Caitlin Clark, steps off the court, creating space for others to rise. Enter what many are now calling the real blessing in disguise for Indiana, Ari McDonald. Ari McDonald. Ari wasn't supposed to be the story. Not like this. Not as the face of Indiana's offense. Not as the unexpected catalyst behind their longest winning streak of the season. After all, how do you step into the shoes of Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation playmaker, the most talked about rookie in years, and the franchise cornerstone who brought unprecedented media attention, merchandise, sales, and ticket demand to the Fever? Clark, who's missed over 15 games this season due to a nagging right groin injury, had been both the lightning and the storm in Indiana's campaign. Her shot-making vision and sheer magnetism changed how opponents defended and how fans consumed the Fever, but her absence created a void that no one quite knew how to fill, until Ari stepped in and did more than just fill it. She rewired Indiana's entire basketball DNA. To truly understand the gravity of Ari McDonald's impact, you have to go back to June 25th, the day she officially joined the Fever for the remainder of the season. At that point, Indiana's season was a chaotic mix of highs and lows. The chemistry was inconsistent, the rotation unstable, and the reliance on Clark overly burdensome. Games slipped through the team's fingers. Leads dissolved. Late-game poise was absent. Clark's turnovers, while part of the natural rookie development arc, often turned tightly contested matchups into frustrating losses. The team was brimming with talent but lacked structure and clarity. Then came Ari. From the moment she took the floor, something clicked. She brought with her an energy, speed, and maturity that elevated not only her own game but everyone around her. Suddenly,